Hi, I'm Pam and I'm here to talk about video games. So I'm making this video a little later than I had planned, but today I'm going to be talking about the games that released in 2022 that I thought were best. I played a total of 43 games that released last year, and I really liked a lot of them. Here they are if you want to see what they are. Since I liked so many of these games, I couldn't just make a top 10, so first I have a few honorable mentions. Tinykin is an adorable 3D platformer and collectathon where you play a tiny little guy exploring various rooms in a gigantic house. You catch and collect various types of Tinykin, each of which has their own use and lets you access more and more of every room. Movement in the game feels great as you run around, glide through the air, and use a bar of soap as a skateboard. This game is lovely to look at and pure fun to play. I was so glad that Supermassive Games had another full release this year outside their anthology series. The Quarry takes us back to 80s-inspired horror, filled with horny teenagers and something out in the woods, wanting to pick them all off at a summer camp. Though the gameplay is pretty standard for this kind of choose-your-own-adventure game, I really liked the characters here. The writing was funny and the music choices were great. This one was fun to play both on my own and with friends. Beat-em-ups are not a favorite genre of mine, but I couldn't help but be charmed by TMNT Shredder's Revenge. This brings classic arcade beat-em-up action to the modern day and lets you play with not just 4, but 6 total players. Sure, it can get difficult to distinguish between them, but the game is just so satisfying, with fun combos and excellent animations. The pixel art is gorgeous and the soundtrack is a real winner. If you're looking for something easy to pick up and play with friends, this is the game. The Case of the Golden Idol is a late release that I haven't had a chance to finish, but it really scratches that itch for a good detective game. Here you're presented with a series of still scenes, each of which contains a murder. You can examine objects or people, reading notes in their pockets or looking at their clothes. Then you need to determine who each person is and just what exactly happened here. It really puts my observation and logic skills to the test. Immortality is an FMV game that asks you to answer the question, what happened to Marissa Marcel? She was an actress who starred in 3 movies that never released, then disappeared. To answer this question, you need to dig through dozens of clips, takes, dress rehearsals, table reads to figure out the stories of both her movies and her life. But there's something more here, something within the footage, hidden and maybe even malevolent. This is a game that's surprising in many ways, and I was enthralled while peeling away its layers and finding out its secrets. Now it's time for the top 10. The first entry is a puzzler that's extremely fun to play co-op. It's Escape Academy. Developed by Coin Crew Games, a group of people who previously made real-life escape rooms, Escape Academy has you training to be an escape master. You'll be tackling a series of escape rooms that involve all kinds of puzzles: word, number, logic, spatial. Each room is timed and you'll get a score at the end based on how fast you are and how many optional hints you used. This was an incredibly fun game to play co-op. It takes place in first person and split screen, and each player can roam around the room finding puzzles and clues. Some are simple, standalone puzzles that are easily solved by one person, while others start building upon each other, using items found in the rooms and the solutions to previous puzzles. It's great to have a second set of eyes to examine clues, which may be set apart from the puzzle interaction itself, and another player who may think about problems in a different way. The puzzle rooms get bigger and more complex as they go and are engaging all the way through. Though I don't think this game would be nearly as fun solo, if you have a co-op buddy, either on the couch or online, this is a great time that'll give you a little brain workout. Number 9 is an adorable Metroidvania about reconnecting a series of islands. It's Islets. In Kyle Thompson's Islets, you play a little mouse who is determined to be a hero. The world has been overrun with monsters, and an island which was previously one has come apart. The game feels really good to play, with fluid controls, a cool slingshot jump ability, and mechanics which encourage you to switch between melee and ranged attacks often. Every new movement ability you get makes traversal even more enjoyable. One of my favorite aspects of the game is that you have an aircraft that lets you travel between the islands. This is what you use to take on some of the bosses in fast and fun bullet hell segments. I do kinda wish there were more of these segments, but the flying does break up the more standard gameplay. The map here is really fun to explore with tons of secrets and shortcuts. Putting together various pieces of the islands gives lots of opportunities for new paths opening up to you. This is a game that definitely made me want to 100% it. In addition to the gameplay, it's also really cute, with hand-painted backgrounds and a cast of characters that made me chuckle more than once. Islets doesn't try to be overly punishing or dark, and is just a good time all around. I love full motion video, and number 8 is one of the most fun FMV games to come out in a while. It's Not for Broadcast. In Not Games, Not for Broadcast, you play a news producer, coordinating the national nightly news from behind the scenes. Choose which adverts to play, bleep out swears, and switch between various camera angles to keep viewers interested. But there's more to it than that. Choosing how to present the news also impacts how the viewers will understand things. Will you play ads for sketchy companies that the higher-ups want to promote? Frame political candidates in a positive or negative light? Do you toe the party line, or do you do what you think is right? You have power over the political landscape, but using it may come at a cost. Things start out rather simply, but soon start getting more and more stressful and ridiculous. Soon you'll be putting out literal fires as you work. And what starts as a regular-seeming newscast gets more and more darkly comedic as the guests and musical acts included get stranger and newscasters themselves start having breakdowns. The performances in the game are all great, and everyone looks like they're having a lot of fun here. The gameplay manages to be super engaging, really tying in the game's concept with what you're physically doing in a way that most FMVs don't manage to do. Not for Broadcast was an incredibly fun time that often made me laugh out loud, but also presented a ton of difficult choices. As someone who loves the original PlayStation and spooky things in general, number 7 was immediately appealing. Signalis. Signalis was developed by Rose Engine and has you playing an android looking for her missing human counterpart after her space shuttle crash lands on a remote planet. Don't ask me to say too much more about the story because I honestly couldn't explain much of it well. What I do understand, though, is that the vibes here are impeccable. Looking like something that almost could have been on the original PlayStation, taking place mostly in a slightly overhead view, you explore your surroundings and discover terrible things. The other androids, called replicas, have gone rogue, killing the humans and now attacking you on sight. You move slowly, as running makes noise and brings unwanted attention. You have weapons to fight, though movement while wielding them is ponderous and ammo is scarce. There's a great map showing you where you've been and which doors have not been tried, and all throughout there are puzzles to solve in order to progress. Some are basic findings of keys, but others use your built-in radio frequencies or require you to really pay attention to your surroundings. The game manages to hold an incredible amount of tension and constantly surprise me, as your character frequently seems to jump between times, places, and even perspectives. Much of survival horror lately has turned into hiding and jump scares, but not Signalis, which understands the real meaning of horror, dealing with a 6-slot inventory. Number 6 is an example of nostalgia done right. It's Return to Monkey Island. The Secret of Monkey Island is one of the best point-and-click adventure games ever made, and Return to Monkey Island by Terrible Toy Box builds off everything in the series while offering some great modern touches. With a framing device set years after the original events, Guybrush is telling a story of the time he went to find out once and for all what the Secret of Monkey Island really is. I love how this game brings back familiar characters while also introducing new ones. The writing and situations you find yourself in are always amusing and often ridiculous, while being balanced with some really earnest and heartfelt moments. Many of the aspects of the game take something familiar but twist them a little bit, like the new pirate leaders or rules for insult sword fighting. There are also some great additions that I think every adventure game should have now. A to-do list keeps track of what you're supposed to be doing. A gradually revealing hint system gives you a nudge in the right direction when you're lost without giving everything away. The game even does a little recap when you come back to playing it after a bit. I had a fantastic time with this game. The puzzles are great, and the dialogue and characters were just what I needed them to be. Next is the sequel to a game that took the number 5 spot back in 2019. A Plague Tale Requiem. Developed by Asobo Studios, A Plague Tale Requiem continues the story of Amicia and Hugo de Rune. Hugo is a young boy with a strange blood disease, which not only endangers him, but also summons a rat plague whenever he gets upset. Amicia is his older sister, determined to protect and cure him. Requiem is beautiful, with lovely graphics and views of colorful French countryside, but it's also horrible when the streets are filled with thousands and thousands of rats who threaten to devour you if you get too close. Amicia travels with both Hugo and other companions they find along the way, and both characters have to cooperate to solve problems. This time around, Amicia has many more tools in her arsenal, and there are many ways to get through each area where Inquisition forces and rats threaten you. If you want, you can rely on stealth and distraction. You can turn the rats on the soldiers by putting out their torches or luring them over. Combat is also much more reliable here, as you get more than just a sling to use against enemies. And the story here, specifically around the relationship between Amicia, Hugo, and the others that end up joining them, is really effective. Trying to save her little brother, spending so much of her young life fighting for him, Amicia goes through a range of emotions that are well delivered by her voice actress. And the ending, whew, it packs a punch. Number 4 is a big one that's probably most other people's number 1, Elden Ring. What is there to say about FromSoft's Elden Ring? I didn't get into the Souls game until a few months before it was released, so I didn't have all that much hype for it. But when all my friends were playing and talking about it, I didn't want to feel left out, so I picked it up. And you know what? It's pretty great. I was wary of the open world, but it's incredibly well done, with most of its features feeling like something you stumble upon organically rather than a to-do list or series of map markers to hit. The lands between are beautiful, and combat is fun, fast, and open to so many different playstyles. Ashes add a lot of options as well, and spells are so much fun to use. My favorite areas are the more classic dungeons, which are put together with care, full of shortcuts, great enemy placement, and cool items to find. The main boss fights are also really memorable, especially Starscourge Radahn, who has the best name, best lore, and lets you feel like you're leading an army against him. But my favorite part was getting to play with friends. Though the co-op setup can be a bit clunky, it was great to be able to go into battle with another person or two, working together to take down a boss or explore a city. It's not at all hard to see why Elden Ring is so popular. My third favorite game of 2022 is a masterful work of visual storytelling, Pentiment. A somewhat unexpected type of game from Obsidian, Pentiment is a narrative adventure. You play Andreas Mahler, a journeyman artist in a small 16th century Bavarian town. While working on his masterpiece, a murder takes place, and Andreas is determined to clear the name of the accused, which means trying to find out who actually did it. As much, or even more than it is a murder mystery, this is a game about really getting to know a place and its people, and making choices. You only have so much time to solve the murder, so many meals you can share with people, or afternoons to spend questioning those you might suspect. Do you want to learn more about the Abbey and its monks and nuns, or are you more interested in the villagers and their lives and possible motives? Time threatens your investigation, always. But the best part of the game is its visual storytelling. Don't get me wrong, the writing is also fantastic, but visually it's just doing so much. You learn about characters not just by what they say, but by the font their text appears in, the rate they make errors in their speech, the sound of the quill across paper. What people serve you for meals and how their homes are decorated tell you about their circumstances. The art style, setting, and narrative weave together seamlessly. Pentiment gave me some of the hardest choices I've had to make in games this year, and some of the most stunning revelations. If you want a time and place to get lost in, this is the game to play. The next game came along right at the end of the year and snuck its way almost to the top. It's Marvel's Midnight Suns. Made by Firaxis, who previously made the new XCOM games, Midnight Suns is a new spin on tactics. The Marvel part doesn't actually do a lot for me, and there are a bunch of characters I'm not at all familiar with, but this game pushes so many of my buttons in terms of mechanics. Combat is card-based. You need to build a deck for each of your heroes and take on enemies in turn-based battle. Movement isn't as much of a concern as in XCOM, but positioning is key, as many abilities have knockback effects that let you send baddies into each other or explosives. Every move your heroes make has a fun animation, and things get really interesting when you start building attacks upon each other, taking advantage of status effects like Blade's Bleeds or Captain America's Taunts. But that's not all. In between combat, you have a whole superhero base to explore and manage. You can talk to each of your comrades, your relationships improving, or maybe worsening based on your responses to them. You can research new abilities or upgrade existing ones. Send people on side missions to collect intel and gather the currencies you need for upgrades from around the compound. Plus, you can decorate your room and pet a demon dog. Basically everything I want from a game. As I tried to fit in as many 2022 releases as I could at the end of the year, Midnight Suns managed to grab my attention and not let it go. And finally, my favorite game of the year is a story of challenge, choice, and hope out among the stars. It's Citizen Sleeper. In Citizen Sleeper by Fellow Traveler Games, you play a worker, the digitized copy of a human transposed on a robot body. You belong to a corporation, but you've made an escape and arrived on a rundown space station. Of course, your owners are looking for you, so you'll need to deal with that. Also, your robot body is breaking down and needs a constant supply of materials to keep it going. Citizen Sleeper uses basic RPG mechanics and dice to help you determine how you'll spend each day. Every morning, you'll get a series of dice rolls depending on your current status and luck, and you need to decide how to spend them. Maybe you want to find a job stripping ship so you have money to spend. Maybe you want to dedicate your best rolls to finding someone who can help you remove your tracker so you can stay hidden. Or find connections to help you get the stabilizer you need to survive. But the mechanics aren't what make the game special. That would be the writing. Along the way, you'll meet all kinds of great characters, each with their own goals and problems that are caused by the crushing weight of capitalism, and I found myself getting super attached to most of them. Characters like Tala, the distiller, who offers you work at her bar and wants to create more for herself. Or the father-daughter duo of Lem and Mina, who are doing what they can to hitch a ride on a colony ship in hopes of a brighter future. Throughout the game, you get to know all of these characters and this place you found yourself in, and eventually it can start feeling like home. The people can start feeling like family. The game is gracious enough to let you continue on, wrapping up each story until you find an ending that feels right for you. Fuck capitalism, find a home. Go play Citizen Sleeper. So those are my top games of 2022. I hope you enjoyed this and maybe found a new game or two that you want to check out for yourself. Leave me a comment, let me know what some of your favorite games from last year were, and I will see you next time. If you want to see more, check out my best of list from last year or my video about Pentiment. I have a Patreon if you want to support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.